unfunded mandate to do what is so crucial for cities. To discuss all these subjects, we have a very interesting table. In fact, here we have, on my right, Cristina Pinna, Policy and Partnership Unit Global and Regional Cooperation Team in UNDP. She will be our keynote speaker, and you will see how she can contribute in a second. And then we have Jochen Kochler, which is Deutsche Messe. And this is the managing board director. Therefore, we will have a very strong contribution by a very prestigious institution, I'm sure. We have the deputy mayor of Lanzhou, which is also a member of the Communist Party of China. And here we have directly the experience of what we have heard before, this extraordinary process of urbanization that took place in China. Let me be very clear. I am not, in fact, saying that the more you industrialize, the bigger you do your city, the more successful you will be. We have heard about Austria, and in particular Vienna, and Vienna didn't increase the size of the population. Why? Because it's not a city that we have to build, it's an urban system. And sometimes better to have small and medium-sized cities connected in a network, as it is the case, for example, in Netherlands, Amsterdam, Hamburg, and Utrecht, or as it is now, Copenhagen, Malmö, this metropolitan system instead of cities. And so, very interesting to listen from the deputy mayor of Lanzhou. And then we have Thailand. And Thailand, we have the director of Bureau of Public Participatory Promotion in Department of Industrial Works. Thailand is a country that is changing and reorganizing itself with a remarkable intensity. So it will be very interesting to listen to what we can learn from this industrial experience. And last but not least, Georgy Potapov, which is the Managing Director for Strategy and Policy in the International Investment Bank. We cannot discuss all of those subjects without bank and financial issues. Without any other ado, I will ask Cristina to address us with a keynote speech, and then we will discuss briefly around the table. Please.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here. And I would like once again to thank UNIDO and the Financial Center for South-South Cooperation for inviting UNDP to speak in this important event. As our chairman instructed us, we need to be very brief and concise, so I will start my presentation keeping this in mind. My intervention will focus on something that we already saw also with the presentation of our previous keynote speaker, Dr. Hong Ping Fan, about an integrated approach for sustainable development. But I will build on that and trying to open the discussion to a new horizon, hopefully. I will focus my intervention on the integrated approach between the alignment of countries' development aspiration, the Belt and Road Initiative, and sustainable development. Indeed, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI as we call it, has generated global interest. It is a very powerful platform that involves more than half of the world population in Asia, Europe, African countries. However, to overcome development bottlenecks, these countries require a comprehensive policy focus on industrial development as well as sustainable urbanization strategies, due to the fact that the majority of the countries that are engaging in the Belt and Road Initiative are emerging countries or developing countries. These two processes are, let's say, parallel, goals together, and are key to the development of those countries. Why? Industrial investment, for example, plays a pivotal role in increasing economic productive capacity and in creating jobs, while cities and urban areas play a major role as contributors to national economies, but also nodes in regional and global markets. Infrastructure is a key component of both industrial and urban development and therefore in countries' economic growth. But it's also a key pillar in the implementation of the Belt and Road. We need to keep in mind that infrastructure in many Belt and Road countries is below international standards, not only in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality. And this places salient constraints to their industrialization and urbanization process. So enhancing infrastructure in key investment sectors, for instance, energy or transport, will certainly support both industrialization and urbanization projects. The way countries will therefore implement their industrialization and urbanization process will be key for sustainable development. I would like on this issue to reflect with you on a particular nexus which is important, that is related to infrastructure and two key domains in sustainable development, namely inequality and resilience. The way infrastructure can positively impact on development, thereby countries through the reduction of inequality, happens mainly through three channels. One is on the provision of basic service like water, sanitation, and electricity. Then at micro level, on the broad increases in productivity that result from the presence of infrastructure, such for instance irrigation, electricity, ICT, roads, and so on. But at micro level also, on the third level, on the effect that the infrastructure has on the access of people to goods, services, and also job opportunities. So, however, the specific channel through which this occurs is very complex. So this is inequality is affected in fact by the quality, the design, coverage, accessibility, and distribution of infrastructure. And key elements in this regard are where, for instance, infrastructure is located and whom it is intended to benefit. On the other hand, the effect of infrastructure on resilience is also very, very key, especially if we look on how the quality, design, distribution, interrelation, and operation of infrastructure affects its resilience to natural disasters, which in turn influence people resilience to shocks. Critical infrastructure, for instance, as transport, network, and electricity, are particularly vulnerable to chain reaction effect during crises. In that concept, vulnerable populations are usually the most severely affected, but also the way our responses are organized or planned can severely affect the ability of countries' economic development to grow. Breaking this vicious circle in infrastructure development requires an integrated approach that focuses both on efficiency and equity. Sustainable and resilient infrastructure development is therefore key. And here the Belt and Road can leverage opportunity for sustainable industrialization and urbanization, but it needs to be well aligned with the 2030 agenda and with the vision of sustainable development. As in any nexus, harnessing synergies and addressing the trade-off is critical for policy making. Countries engaged in the Belt and Road are very diverse and have very different development stages. This can be a challenge, but if the complementarities are taken as a connecting point, can really represent a game changer. The BRI can be indeed a key driver of economic dynamism and rising prosperity, and also in the region, but also in the country's efforts for industrialization and urbanization. Dialogue, partnership, cooperation are at the heart of these efforts. To encourage dialogue from country to country, city to city, city to business cooperation can trigger innovative solutions for integrating urban and industrial development. Indeed, participatory process involving local communities can be useful to ensure that considerations related to economic, but especially social and environmental dimensions are taken into account when planning for infrastructure investment. further cross-disciplinary collaboration and engagement between researcher, patrociner, decision-making, and other stakeholders could be a way of achieving the mutual learning and transfer of information. That this will allow scientific knowledge to go beyond the classrooms and be transformed into practical strategies. Obviously, this will also benefit the private sector because it will help address its business risk and possible governance issues. And only if we engage the private sector, we can guarantee that sustainable approaches can be long-lasting. On a final note, I would like to briefly mention the work that UNDP is doing on advocating for sustainable development along the Belt and Road through the strengthening of multi-sectorial partnership. UNDP has supported the Belt and Road Initiative since at the beginning. We signed a memorandum of understanding in September 2016 with the government of China at the margins of the UN General Assembly, and is a cooperation framework to support the Belt and Road. Our main objective is the alignment of the BRI with the 2030 agenda, because we believe that the initiative can really serve as a vehicle or accelerator for the achievement of the SDGs. We follow up last May at the Belt and Road Forum with a concrete action plan and a first list of projects to be jointly implemented. Key in this process has been the mobilization of partners to advance areas of cooperation. And we would like to mention briefly few that we have been engaging, especially the levels on our. First of all, we engage with think tanks and media partners to enhance communication between China and other Belt and Road countries. On this purport, we organize dialogues like the one we are attending today, forum, and we invite government counterparts, private sector, academic, as well as civil society organizations. But we also work with think tanks and financial institutions are present also in our panel to strengthen knowledge and produce policy reports that can support policymakers in China and the Belt and Road making sound decisions and sustainable investments. We launched at the Belt and Road Forum a flagship report on the strategic alignment on the BRI and SDG to promote the BRI as a global public good provider. But we also launch soon a UNDP and China Development Bank report that underlines actually the economic development of the countries along the BRI, seeking and analyzing for the complementarities of those countries in the initiative and actually how we can better harness the opportunities. And the third level is again with financial institutions and the private sector to jointly implement projects and to maximize development impact through parallel financing, matching loans and grants. But we also engage in the implementation of projects with local communities to ensure the social and environmental aspects are properly taken into account. From our experience, sustainable development across the Belt and Road benefit tremendously from such a partnership, can help progress capacity building as well as advance trade and investment promotion. There is much to be gained from the sharing of expertise among stakeholders. To conclude, addressing human capital formation and integration, economic growth and diversification can really create safeguard for sustainable social or environmental impact along with financial return of investment. It's here where the BRI could really enable a sustainable future and boost the region's economic potential. In this regard, if we reflect on what development progress means, the measure of poor economic growth can only be one side of the story. Rather, it's the quality of growth that makes a difference, so that inclusive and sustainable growth can trigger huge impact on human development across the cities, countries, and regions. I'd like to applaud the organizer for organizing this conference. They see a very, very diverse group of participants. This is an example of how we can break the silos and creating new platform. I would like to thank you very much and hope to contribute.
Thank you. Thank you, Cristina. Cristina insisted a lot on the quality of infrastructure as a basis to improve the performances of cities and their capacity to exploit comparative advantages. And she also insisted on the importance of multi-stakeholders. Let's therefore give the floor to the representative of multi-stakeholders. What better than Jochen, which is from Deutsche Messe, as we said, and can bring us the experience not only of the large firms that when arrive in an area obviously have a big impact, not only of the small firms that I mentioned before, but also of the middle-sized firms that in many cases are very crucial, for sure in the case of the experience of Germany. Thank you. No, this one. Innovation.
Dear Mr. Chairman Marco Pezzini, dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thanks a lot to UNIDO to invite us as Deutsche Messe and me to be here in a panel. That is a great pleasure and honor for me. And yes, we have the advice to make it short and precise, so I hope to give a clear statement in the next 5 minutes. First of all, I would like to say thank you again to UNIDO that they did with us 3 years ago a partnership, and now we have our first leaflet that shows UNIDO at Hannover Messe. At our trade show we organized every year in April, and the reason why we did this cooperation is that we have there every year around 6,000 exhibitors on our big trade show area who would like to do business with many other people. And as the chairman mentioned at the beginning, that is not every time Siemens and ABB and other big companies. We have hundreds and thousands of small and medium-sized companies who would like to help you to develop technologies for the cities. But first of all, I would like to underline that we all have 3 major trends that we are also in our daily business involved. That is, first of all, globalization, second is urbanization, and the third is digitalization. That are 3 mega trends we are facing, and we in Hanover, not everyone will know it, that is a city in the northern part of Germany, and yes, indeed, there is the biggest trade show center in the world. So we are running there around 70 trade shows. Most of them are focusing on industries. And we celebrate this year our 70th anniversary, and we have to do every year the job to be a mirror of the current markets. What are the main topics they are interested that we have there every year, hundreds, thousands of visitors. And first of all, I would like to give the statement here for many officials that we all agree that technology is the enabler to run infrastructures. Technology is the enabler to run systems. As already mentioned, not only a big city is a good city, you need an infrastructure and a city that make it convenient and make it livable to live there on this point of view. And we are deeply convinced from our experience that innovations are done by all of these technology companies. Sorry, they are not developed by ministries, they are not developed by organizations, so the innovations are developed by the companies not only in Europe, worldwide, and these technologies are more and more very sophisticated. Therefore is the second main point there in all of our trade shows is the topic of skills, how to run these modern systems. It's not only the solution to buy a modern factory, you need the staff and the labor to run this. Therefore, skills are so important, and we as Deutsche Messe AG started 7 years ago a so-called Robotation Academy. So we start a Robotation Academy to give the staff the ability to run these robots in the way they should run. And we are very proud to open next month our first Robotation Academy outside of Germany. We do this opening ceremony in the south of China in Foshan, and there will be also a Robotation Academy on this point. The third important aspect in our trade shows is energy. You know, we in Germany did since 6 years a so-called change of the energy system. So we have a lot of inputs in renewable energy. That is so important, not only to run a factory, for all of our daily life. Energy is so important. And most important in our current discussion in Germany is the so-called digitalization. We have this buzzword Industry 4.0. Everyone will hear about it. That means nothing else that we all send among us our relatives for business with our smartphone. Perhaps no one here did not use this smartphone today, and we could not believe 20 years ago to have this. And this will be more and more a common use in the industrial production. So this Industry 4.0 means that the machines and the factories will exchange many data, and this data exchange of the machines is very worthwhile for a flexible and productive production. And the key question for today will be, is this only a technology for high developed country, or will this be an enabler for many developing countries to use this modern technology to be there then, and you have not only, yes, you have 30 years perhaps in 1 year, and what I heard about this initiative, Belt and Road, this Industry 4.0, and we are a bit proud. If I talk to our Chinese, French in Foshan or elsewhere, they write it with a German industry. So this is really the description of decade. But most important, and that is the conclusion of my brief statement here, we have to bring the people together like here. So what we really start together with UNIDO in Hanover or elsewhere, these small and medium-sized companies, sometimes they have only 200 employees. They are really willing to do business. They have special solutions for environmental protection. They have special solutions for infrastructure, but for them it's difficult to get in touch with you, to talk with the mayor or to talk with the president or whatever. Therefore, we are convinced that our trade show approach is great, that the people are there together, only one day, but 2 or 3 days, and then really to understand which kind of technologies they offer, and then to starting business. And with the medium and small companies, that is most important, and thanks to digitalization, you can stay in contact then there in a longer time. So you heard, I'm totally convinced that technology is the enabler, and that is only possible bringing the right people together at the right time, like we're here together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we cannot agree more on the fact that technology and skills are one of the crucial items in the agenda for economic development of cities and in general of countries. And we have heard that they need, obviously, participation of different actors. I would stress in this point also the specific condition of certain developing countries, very crucial, the question that you put at the end, what in developing countries, where sometimes the specializations that they have limit, in a certain sense, the possibility to hire up skills. So very often you have a mismatch between demand and supply of labor, but it's not only on the side of the supply of labor. Sometimes mining or specialization in energy does not help to further develop skills in countries that remain locked in their activity. I don't know if Chile is here represented, but it's very interesting that Chile, for example, in the last 30 years, increased the dependence on natural resources despite very important economic results, at least in terms of GDP. So all this debate raise also another very interesting question, which is if we want to look at the experience of China, how China made it to be capable to create cities that attracted an enormous amount of fluctuant and then stable population originally from rural areas, but also that was capable to have technological capabilities in place, which is not what is happening in many African cities that are growing without productive transformation. And so they concentrate poor from rural areas, but this population doesn't change the nature of the mayonnaise. And here we have the deputy mayor of Lanzhou, that for sure can tell us something about it. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to come to Vienna and to share with you my points of view and experiences in cities and sustainable development of city. My city, the city of Lanzhou, sits in the middle of China. Many thousands years ago, the products of China, tea, were transported through Lanzhou to Eurasia and then further to Europe. That is to say, Lanzhou was the important hub of transportation on the Silk Road. In terms of urbanization and industrialization process, Lanzhou also played a major role. We were very strong in manufacturing, and they accounted for 80% of the municipal industry. For Lanzhou, the most priority for sustainable development is to speed up industrial restructuring and upgrading of our industry. We have three major measures. In terms of the structure, we are investing a lot in expanding the third industry, the tertiary industry, as well as linking it with the second industry. We look at our traditional advantages. At the same time, we build up services, including tourism, etc. We are optimizing and streamlining our structure. We are service industry oriented. In terms of the hierarchy of industries, we look at the cultivation of new strategic industries and protecting traditional industries. At the same time, we invest a lot in human capital investment. We are developing ICT, new energy, new infrastructure, and biotechnology, as well as environmental protection industry. Now they account for 13.5% of our economy. In terms of their layout, we combine the readjustment of the industrial layout and city planning. We are phasing out or encouraging the heavy industry to the periphery of the city so that we can improve the environment of the city. Most importantly, we are building a new district in the westmost point of China. In this way, we can solve the problem of lack of space in downtown area. At the same time, we are upgrading our industries. In order to encourage the upgrading of industry and sustainable development of city, we pay attention to the following areas. First, the coordinated development of industry and environmental protection. We are building a environmental friendly city. Air pollution has been plaguing Lanzhou as a city for many years. Previously, we were among the top 10 most heavily polluted cities in China. However, we are dealing with this problem by reducing air pollution and we are restoring the environment by biological methods. Therefore, we have seen a huge progress in terms of environment. We have also won a major award for environmental progress during the COP21 in Paris. At the same time, we are developing the private and public industries at the same time. We insist on market-driven approach by restructuring the shareholding structure of the company so that we can give greater vitality of the private funds. The third approach is that we are attracting a lot of investment to support our effort in upgrading the industry. We have attracted a lot of top 500 companies from other countries. We 50 of them have built up branches and offices in the city of Lanzhou. Fourthly, we are combining domestic and foreign factors together. Lanzhou is a landlocked city. Our city, the city of Lanzhou, through BRI has moved to the frontier of development, which also helped us to optimize our resources and other productive elements. We have built up ties with Nepal, Belarus via rail link, etc. And we have also built up free trade zones. We have also built up international cooperation industrial parks so that we are moving on to the international stage or spotlight. Now we're going through major economic transformations worldwide. How can we make the best out of the industrial transformation to boost the development of cities? This is a question we have to face. We have to ride the tide of integrated development worldwide. We stick to the process of green, open, inclusive, coordinated development. We are bringing together all the actors, both domestic and international. At the same time, we are trying to make Lanzhou better known worldwide. We think with the BRI initiative is making progress, Lanzhou is going to enjoy greater potential for cooperation with Eurasian and European countries, and that is a major prospect for sustainable development for Lanzhou. We think today's meeting is a very good opportunity for us to deepen our reform, and we are ready to build closer ties with the countries along the BRI corridor as well as international organizations so that we can achieve mutual benefit and we can explore the road for sustainable development together. Thank you.
谢谢. Crucial, this element that has appeared contributing to setting the scene that we are trying to do, which is all the environmental dimension of the problem of productivity, industry, and cities. Why so crucial? Obviously, because it becomes in itself a limit to growth, as it was said many years ago in a very famous book. So it's a bottleneck in many cases. But also because the preferences of the consumer are changing. And now this becomes a request directly on the market. So let me now, on this point, ask what our colleague from Thailand can tell us. As this environmental dimension, the role that the public authorities can play in this field, I think is a crucial element on which the future of competitiveness, industrialization will be confronted with. Please.
Okay, thank you very much to give time for us for Thailand to contribute our experience about the industrial development in the context of the how to make use of technology to clean up the industry and how to draw up the involvement of the all stakeholder to motivate the industrial development to into the what they call the sustainable activity or something like. For Thailand, we quite realized about the problem from the past of our development that when we draw up the investment from the foreigner, and the many industry settlement in Thailand. The problem is the urbanization and not enough the infrastructure to support the industry. The problem right now that we face right now is our people, they are not so happy to have the industry. That why and now the problem of the government that they have to solve the problem because the government would like to boost up our economic growth. You can hear recently that the government launched the EEC, the Eastern Economic Corridor project that try to boost up the infrastructure in the area, the new airport, the capacity of the port, or the high-speed train or something. So many a big project there. But the problem right now is in how to make the balance of the development because of our people not so, as I said, our people not so happy. And in terms of the industry, what we are doing right now is try to set up like the project that make every stakeholder in the area they make a plan make a plan what they want to do, they want to be in the future 10 or 20 years and what we have to do right now. So right now our department got the mandate from the government to carry out their projects, what we call the eco-industrial town projects, which is we encourage all stakeholders to put all resources, to pool the resources to clean up or to make the area, the eco-industrial area to make it livable. I mean, everybody who live in the area, they satisfy the condition of living, the standard that of living they get higher, and the industry draw up the economic, boost up the economic for the area, and the symbiosis among industry and urban, or the surrounding neighborhood, they help each other. I mean, waste from each industry can be the raw material, or the raw material, the waste from industry can be the raw material to create job for the people in the area or something. What we are doing right now. And I can tell you that next 4 years, actually, we're gonna go to some point that the industry might be more realize that they how they can stay alive in the society. If they don't contribute anything to the neighboring, maybe they might be get suffer or something. This is the crucial project that our department got the mandate from the government that I would like to tell you. Things in the first round. Okay.
Thank you very much. So we have heard several items appearing on the table: technology, infrastructure, skills, environment. Now, when you have so many fronts at once, the problem you are confronted with is coordination. And I think that Georgi Potapov, which is exactly in charge of this matter, can tell us how to coordinate these different fronts. I have to excuse because I'm very bad chair of a session, and so we are passing the time in which the translator can help us. So I excuse with those that cannot follow now in English the debate, but we still have 10 minutes before we end, and so I will ask you, I will say my apology for now, but we will continue anyhow the discussion. Okay, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Mario, you are a perfect chair leader of this session. Thank you very much indeed.
Tell to my mother, she never believes.
Of course. Esteemed colleagues, it's a pleasure, and esteemed panelists, it's a pleasure to be here and to be invited by such an esteemed institution as UNIDO to represent the International Investment Bank. And well, actually for me, as a development banker, the phrase multilateral stakeholder cooperation means very, very much. Well, in fact, if one asks me, I would say that this is the key or the answer actually to the core of this 3 days conference, how to ensure urban development and urban industrial development. But I wouldn't go in front of the train, so let me be more precise and systematic. So before turning to some concrete examples or ideas of the topic, I would like just to give a concise overview of the International Investment Bank, or the IIB, which is among oldest multilateral development banks, dating back in 1917. So the IIB is a fully fledged multilateral organization registered in the UN, with more than 8 billion euros investments since its inception back in 1970, and which was effectively relaunched in late 2012 when its shareholders adopted a new development strategy. And the shareholders are Russian Federation, 5 European member states, such as Hungary, Slovak Republic, Czech Republic, Romania, Bulgaria, 2 of the Asian countries, Vietnam and Mongolia, and you wouldn't believe it, but there is Cuba in our shareholder composition. So, like a mother pearl. Since then, the IIB has more than doubled its assets to nearly 1 billion euros, with more than 700 million euros in new investments in the past 5 years. So, as you may presume, the IIB's mission as of a development institution is to promote economic development of our member states and to foster cooperation between them. So, and actually, here we go to the question that you raised: how to manage all these things and how to tie them together. By the way, well, the mission of every fundamental development institution, or IFI, International Financial Institution, to do so. This is the main actually task. So that is why our mandate is to help SMEs in our member states, especially in not in big urbanic cities like capitals, but in smaller ones that in much greater demand than capitals of money, to help them raise their voice, figuratively speaking, but practically to do their startups or greenfields, and actually to inject fresh ideas and fresh taxes actually into the national economies. That's the core idea of development banking. So, in addition to that, of course, we are as a development institution, we are promoting the integration between our member states, export-import finance, and so on. Actually, besides the quite a unique composition, member state composition of the IIB, which differs us from our peers, our inter-regional character allows us to serve as a bridge for investment and trade between countries and cities of our member states. That's actually, in my understanding, that fits IAB quite well into the very topic of today's discussion. Secondly, I would like to stress that actually that's what I began with. There is no alternative to cooperation between regions in tackling urban industrial tasks, and development institutions together with banks, together with municipalities and national governments can do the task, not alone, only together. And IAB is quite a good example in this sense, because one of our priorities, not only, but one of the most priorities of ours, is to syndicate with other IFIs or DFIs, among them national development institutions in our member states, in terms of developing infrastructure, local infrastructure first, and localize the industries in that sense. It's worth mentioning as well that our institution has established a joint technical assistance fund along with the Slovakian government. Its purpose is to finance advisory services and technical assistance within the framework of the bank's mission. And the beneficiaries here are the so-called OECD ODA countries, official development assistance. And among our member states, those are Cuba, Mongolia, and Vietnam. That's where the needs, I mean, those are the countries, developing countries, exactly what my colleagues were talking about, and you. Developing countries are in greater needs for industrial development, for know-how, for best technologies. And here, IAB and our peer institutions like IFC, EBRD, or FMO, who are our esteemed co-financers, act as the catalyst for attracting greater investment into local industries and creating new jobs, of course. So, of course, well, again, as a banker, I prefer to look into practical, or better to say, bankable part of the story. So, if you don't mind, well, a couple of examples, right? Examples always speak for themselves. Just to let you know what IAB is doing, and my call is here to other financial institutions to do almost the same. So the International Investment Bank took part in syndicated lending, for example, to the Sofia Urban Mobility Center in Bulgaria, which is a subsidiary of the Sofia municipality. Well, the core idea in that story, in that project, was to syndicate along with Bulgarian Development Bank and to attract one more financial institution, which is International Asset Bank, to do a fully fledged syndication and to use the facility for purchasing new transport vehicles, trolley buses and subway cars from the Czech Republic and Russia. You see the integrated character of such a project. Well, that project, to cut the long story short, created more than 255 new jobs, attracted new investments, of course, and new technologies from Czech Republic and Russia. By the way, Moscow city is well known now for its high-end technology in terms of urbanization. So, and here as a banker again, this is an example for risk sharing between financial institutions, right? Which is very important nowadays when Basel II and Basel III regulations make commercial banks think more than twice before investing long, big, relatively cheap money into the projects. So that's just one example, and IAB, International Investment Bank, has more than 10 projects of such kind, including, for example, a very recent one, and a very noble one, I would say, made along with New Development Bank and Eurasian Development Bank. We signed an agreement on construction of hydropower plants in Russia's Republic of Karelia. Thus, we actively support the development of sustainable energy and promote large-scale infrastructure projects which give an additional impetus to socio-economic development of that far part of the Russian Federation. So at the end, what I would like to stress again, obviously with what I have begun, in this sense, the cooperation between financial institutions, be them commercial banks or financial development institutions, municipal governments, cooperation is the key to the needs, to the topic raised in this panel. And so it is the fundamental formula that will help everyone to tackle the problems. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, thank you. We have listened very interesting contribution that covers a wide spectrum, but with concise views. I will summarize simply saying that we are discussing very complex phenomena. Let me speak to my brothers of Tanzania here. In Africa, what we are facing, as I said, is an increasing population, increasing urbanization, and an increasing amount of youth entering in society. What can we do in order to answer this unprecedented strong phenomena? Well, obviously many say Africa has a lot of comparative advantages in mining and in natural resources. It's true that in Australia, for square kilometers, there is an investment in exploration of $60. In Africa, it's still $5, so you can further develop. But obviously, this type of investment in mining will not answer the demand that comes from people that wants to enter in society, because the job created will be anyhow insufficient. Therefore, you can say foreign direct investment, we can create in cities or close to cities special zones to attract very important, strong investment. And we know that Justin Lean is very often speaking about that option. It does help, but the amount of global value chain that pass through Africa at present is still very limited and growing slowly. So this will contribute, but will not be the answer. The public sector can create some jobs, but in reality the fiscal capacities in Africa and in many developing countries are limited. So we have to rely also on the SMEs. And when it comes to SMEs or middle-sized firms, it's the local authorities that have a lot to say. It's not the national or the international institution. So it's very crucial that we put together all these actors, because from one only actor will not come the answer of this very important dominant phenomena in an important continent as it is Africa, but similar things are happening elsewhere. The second point is the agenda. Infrastructure, but quality infrastructure. Technology, yes, of course, skills, environment. We need also here many actors. Things only to a data. In OECD country, the investment in research and development is more or less 2.4% of GDP. In Latin America is 0.4%. And where doesn't come the contribution? Mainly the private sector. So obviously we need to mobilize all the actors to do in part their job. It's not the case in Germany, but in many Latin American countries, it is the case. So we have a very intense agenda, I would say industrial policy for or with cities and done by cities that needs to develop further. I will conclude by saying that I mentioned as an example Mexico City, and the reason is obvious. In my mind, in these days, the sadness that comes with the images that we see from Mexico City make me say that we are all Chilango, at least I am Chilango. And I invite you to think a second also to this tragedy. Thank you very much. Bye.